Welcome back to another episode, and I am delighted to have Moira Somers with us. And I should let Moira introduce herself. She's a rock star in her own right. She's amazing. Anytime that I can go to a session, even that she's in, that is great. I was just accusing her of leading a session at the Nasrudin Project, and she said no. She was just talking in a session. So,
such a pleasure to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you live in Winnipeg, Canada.
I do. Just a state and a bit above you there.
Well, I know you're only what, 500 miles from me?
Yeah.
That's pretty darn close. It's Rapid City, South Dakota.
Practically neighbor.
How did you? So you're a psychologist. Mm-hmm. How did you come by that? What motivated you to get into this field?
You know, I've just always been one of those kids that's been an observer. It's been an observer and has wanted to make things better. So that I think is a pretty common driving force for people who get into this field. Mm-hmm. I was always torn between wanting to go on in medicine or staying in psychology. And so one thing that just really helped me be at peace was going into neuropsychology. So spending many, many years working with people around learning disabilities, learning challenges, neurodivergence, as well as diseases and conditions affecting the brain. The reason that I didn't want to go on in medicine was because so often in that field, you just don't get the ability to spend a lot of time with people. And that was really important to me. So neuropsych allowed me to do that. And I had a wonderful time working at a medical school as part of that, and having just ample opportunity to get involved in the lives of my patients and the families that were supporting them.
So, and your heart just comes out as you speak in your concern for people. How do you go from that to being one of the leading psychologists in financial therapy or financial transitioning areas that you run in?
It mostly started through my work as a neuropsychologist, in particular with business owners who were hit by that, not proverbial bus, by the literal bus, and who ended up in a coma, or people who had a stroke or some sort of brain injury, and they had made no provisions for what was going to happen as a result of their disability or decline. And so families were just scrambling to support their loved one in hospital, even as they were trying to keep the business going. And it made me realize this paradox, Rick, which is that we've long known that people identify money as one of the biggest sources of stress in their life, right? Like survey after survey, year after year. And that can be, it's stressful because you don't have enough of it, or it can be stressful because there's just a lot on your plate to manage, as in entrepreneurial scenarios. So we've known forever that money is the biggest source of stress in people's lives, but how much training do most mental health professionals get in dealing with financial stress, in dealing with money at any level, abundance, scarcity, anywhere along the spectrum? The answer is precious little. And so as a result of seeing what was going on in these families and recognizing that they were so financially stressed, I determined that I needed to up my game. And so I did a lot of training, frankly, in everything from family business to financial therapy. executive coaching, anything that would sort of get at how do we begin to welcome money into the room with families and individuals as they seek us out.
And especially families and individuals in business,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
which almost sounds like an oxymoron. It's like, wait a minute, they're in business. They understand money and all this stuff, right?
Well, I mean, some of them do for sure. Some of them are, they can make it sing, right? They're just great at it. But the problem is that they don't often communicate any better than anybody else in society about it. And all of us think we're invincible, really. And so we don't make plans often until there's a pain point. How many, what's the percentage of Americans without a will? Last time I checked, it was like 65, something like that.
I was going to say 68, so we're in the ballpark.
Yeah. How many Americans don't have an advanced healthcare directive? That's up at about 80%. So I did my doctoral dissertation on procrastination.
Oh, wow.
And my interest at the medical school was similar to that. It was what makes it hard for people to follow through on their own best intentions for their lives. So why do we procrastinate? Right? Why do we do this voluntary delay on the behaviors that will lead to goal achievement, even when we know that delay is not in our best interest?
Right,
why
exactly.
do we persist in that? And why do people seek out medical advice, and then ultimately, as my career went along, why do they seek out financial advice and not implement it? They pay for this stuff, and then they don't implement it. And I say they, but really what I mean is we, right? That's an interesting foible of humanity, that we often delay on things that aren't causing us immediate pain. And so how do we help people overcome that gap between where they are and where they want to be when there isn't an immediate pain point that's moving them there, right? How do we get them there before the crisis? And that, to this day, that just continues to really fascinate me. And I get a chance to have a master class in that myself every day as I look at motivating myself and persisting when I don't want to persist, or not persisting when I don't want to persist. So those are some of the things that continue to interest me greatly.
Well, I mean, you've hit like pretty close to the bullseye of financial life planning. Financial therapy is, I like to say it's kind of like dieting or losing weight. It's like we don't need more information about what a fat gram does, but what a calorie is, and why do we continue in habits, exercise, eating right, things like this, that a lot of us know are not good for us, but there is no burning fire in many cases today. Like, well, okay, I just ate my Philly cheesesteak. I'm still alive. And I'm young. So
that is such an American iconic dish. I don't even know what a Philly cheesesteak is, but it sounds like maybe it's not that healthy.
I probably couldn't tell you exactly what it is. I just know don't eat it. And for all of you in Philadelphia, we don't mean any disregard here. So yeah, it's why do I do things that are not in my best interest? So did you come away with like, now I'm going to sound like the normal reporter. Can you give us 3 bullet points that we can address and overcome procrastination forever?
I could give you 1,000 bullet points, but
that doesn't fit into the article well. 3.
I know. Ultimately it comes down to this queer decision that was made by the Almighty to give us free will. And I think there's lots of evidence there may have been some regret around that decision to give him free will. But some bullet points. Sure, there are some things that we know universally help people deal with this problem. One of the first is just the recognition that you can feel something and not be that thing. So you can feel bored, you can feel resentment, you can feel understimulated, and not necessarily have to obey the edict to therefore ignore what needs to be done. So cultivating that emotional intelligence, Rick, about what it is to have emotions that might be painful. Maybe you're not engaging in this financial task because the last 4 times you tried to do this, you had a fight with your spouse. Or because it's going to mean that you have to talk to somebody about who's going to be the guardian for your children. And that's painful.
Mm-hmm.
And often, there's, at the very least, there's uncertainty around it. So coming to just really be willing to acknowledge this is what's going on for me emotionally. And I will feel better immediately if I obey the edict to just lie down till that feeling goes away. Right? It's like taking a belt of alcohol. Procrastination is immediately effective in making us feel better. It is an emotion coping strategy. So calling it out for what it is, it's something that makes us feel good, that doesn't do good for us, and that we can feel an emotion and still go ahead and begin to be productive. That's one of the most important things to keep in mind. And then it's like, well, why would we want to do that? Why do we want to do that? So sometimes it's getting in touch with our why. And sometimes it's things like, well, this is the kind of person that I want to be. I want to be the kind of person who attends to things before they're a 5-alarm fire. Sometimes we can overcome procrastination by just asking somebody to accompany us on the journey, right? Would you come to this meeting with me? Would you be on the call with me? Something my own financial planner did a while ago. I needed to set up something with the Canadian Revenue Agency for like online tax installments with the bank. And the interface was like Cass Sunstein could have written sludge just on this terrible interface. Governments and banks, when they get together, their baby is like the spawn of Satan in terms of sludge. Anyway, so she was willing to come on the call with me and just like help click here, not there, not there. I know it says to click there. Do not click there. She, in 5 minutes, got me further than I had been able to be in, hours of trying to figure this out. So just her willingness to accompany me, not just for emotional support, but for very definite direction, that was critical. Sometimes you need people just, you think about how many times have you told your kid to go clean his room and he doesn't want to clean his room. And so you go and you sit in his bed and you don't clean his room for him, but you just have a nice chat and you joke around and the room gets cleaned. And it wasn't that big a deal. And all he wanted was a little companionship, So understanding what it is that might make this task less aversive or even a little bit interesting or enjoyable, hooking it to the deeper level things like who we want to be or why we're doing it. And then the final thing that I would say is just put it on the darn schedule. It's not real until it's scheduled. It's like the time management version of the Velveteen Rabbit. The Velveteen Rabbit isn't real till it's loved, and our intentions aren't real until they're scheduled. Mostly because about anywhere between 40 to 60% of our intentions get forgotten. They just like fly out of our head. So it's not even that we're voluntarily procrastinating. It's that we forgot to send our mom the birthday card because it wasn't in the reminder system. And the only thing that reminded us was that, oh, it's December 19th. It's my mom's birthday. I should have sent that the week ago. So one of the organizations that I've been involved with is an organization called Nudge, spelled with a K, and
wow.
their whole raison d'être is to help financial advisors and clients manage the shared to-do list so stuff doesn't just fall through.
Nice. I just thought that was a function of getting old.
You know what? It can be, but it's also a function of being busy.
Yeah.
I think more so. It's a function of being busy. I think as we get older, we frankly get better at time management. Maybe not so much. Might not get better at remembering, but we get better at telling the truth about ourselves, developing systems. Sometimes that huge time crunch that you have when you're active in your career and you're taking care of your parents and you're taking care of your children, some of that time crunch gets better. But yeah, forgetting is a huge problem. Sludge is a huge problem. These barriers that exist that just slow us down despite our desire to get stuff done. And then there's the whole, I don't want to do it, don't make me do it problem.
Yeah. So my mind goes all sorts of different directions. On this, I'm thinking of GTD, Getting Things Done by David Allen.
Yeah.
And having your trusted system.
Yes.
Putting everything in there. I was relieved once I went to something 10 or 20 years ago and they said, I don't know, you probably know the details exactly. Like the brain is designed to hold 5 things and we're trying to hold 50 things and it's just ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, this noggin, I mean, we're at the top of the food chain, right? I mean, this has been a pretty incredible organ, but it is not this little system, notebook, whatever it is, computer stuff. It's way better than our brain. What our brain is beautiful for is the planning and the execution and the creativity and the managing the body budget so that we can get to our best thinking. That's what the brain's good about. And if we can eliminate some of the unnecessary tasks by just putting systems in place that make deciding and remembering less critical, then we're way ahead of the game.
Totally. Yeah, it's I get up when I have those 2 a.m. sessions of worrying about this, and I got to remember about this. I got to remember about this. I've learned just open my iPad, put it on the list. Now I can go to sleep because I don't have to remember this when I wake up.
Yeah.
So that's that is crucial stuff, and yeah, I think procrastination is probably layers deep.
It is.
In all of the reasons. The easy stuff is put it on the schedule. I'm not saying it's easy, but that's a very tactile.
Mm-hmm. No, the harder part is understanding that it's an emotion management strategy.
Yeah, and I love that I've never thought of procrastination as a soother. And that's a little bit of an IFS speak, where there's parts of ourselves they call firefighters. And the firefighter is the last ditch effort when the manager fails to keep all the vulnerabilities in check, all the difficult emotions. And it's like, okay, we're going to soothe the system. What do we need? Do we need some alcohol to take that out? Do we need to go to work? Even, and with the best intention of I want to put the system out of pain.
Yeah, for sure.
And I had not really thought of procrastination as a way of managing that. But it makes sense.
Well, you know, it's just such a human experience, you know. I mean, there are people for whom it is a 5 alarm fire. Like their lives are in chaos. They are annoying people. They are letting people down. Their marriages are in conflict. They're losing jobs, right? Like it can become such a pervasive way of life that it can really torpedo the quality of life. But for most of us, it's not that bad. 85% admit to doing it at least occasionally. But really, it's because it's just in the moment we can think of way better things to do, things that are more fun, things that are more interesting, things that don't bring up some of those feelings. But I tell you what, boredom and resentment are two of the biggest contributors to procrastination. Sometimes people delay, especially on financial tasks, Rick, because there is frank trauma in their past. They have been over controlled with respect to the financial stuff. They have been systematically kept down by forces either within their family or the broader culture.
Mm-hmm.
There may have been frank abuse and trauma. There may have been mistakes that they made with their finances that are just associated with so much shame that they don't want to touch it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what people are sitting on until you ask permission to
Mm-hmm.
know. And sometimes financial planners, they just want to keep it about the math and the planning, not recognizing that that's not the part that has veto power.
I just need to explain this a little clearer mathematically.
Yeah. So there are really good things that financial planners need to ask, like, have you ever tried to do this before? How'd that go? Yeah. I noticed that we've been kicking this particular task down the road for the past 14 years. Do you think we could maybe unpack a little bit about how come this is happening and how come I've been sort of colluding in it happening by not wanting to talk about it, by not wanting to risk upsetting you?
Yeah.
In my own research about why do people seek expert advice, one of the things that comes out on the top of the list, and this doesn't, this includes why do you go to your mechanic? Why do you bring in the cybersecurity expert? Why do you work out with a personal trainer? People want they want complex things made simpler so that they can have a sense that they're not screwing up, right? There's safety to it. And they want to get stuff done. They want to know that as a result of taking the car to the mechanic, the winterizing has been done. As a result of talking to the cybersecurity expert, the systems have been in place to make sure that they can't be hacked or overtaken. And as a result of coming to the financial expert, that the paperwork's been filed and the estate planning's been taken care of, and because of that, their family's been taken care of. Mm-hmm. In other words, they want to come away from their meetings with experts feeling something different, not just knowing something different, so that they can go on to be doing something different.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're lucky, those experts will just do it for us. But on those occasions where we actually have to be conscious and involved in the process, then we want to know that we're being helped to get into action ourselves.
And hey, you're any financial professional listen to this, and even somebody who is not can, I think, completely relate to that. Of having this on the list, it's on the list, it's on the list. When I'm in the meeting with the professional, doesn't matter financial or whatever, my head's nodding, yes, 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 yes. And the next meeting, well, what happened? Oh,
Oh,
oh, that.
yeah.
And how, yeah, financial planners, many just don't delve into, well, let's talk about it.
Hmm.
I mean, clearly something's going on.
Yeah.
You might say you want to do it, but you're not doing it. And
And so to be able to say that in a way that doesn't feel all judgy.
I was just going to say, you're saying it, not doing it is not something I would say. Because that's very judgy.
I think it is really, it's just so helpful to be able to say, wow, I know that this is important for you because it comes up time and again. And yet, right? Don't even need to finish that sentence. And yet.
Yeah.
So let's go into that a little bit. Because that, doesn't make me feel good knowing that that's hanging out there for you. And so tell me about this item. What does it mean to you? What is it provoking you? I remember meeting with a lawyer one time, and I was balking on signing a contract. And he does the 3 rounds of explaining the implications of the contract, but then he just stops and he looks at me and he says, I have never known you to be like this. What's going on? And it was so helpful that he did that he refused to get caught at the level of the technical. And he said, and he asked the personal, what's your gut telling you? What's holding you back on signing? Because I know it's not an issue that you don't understand this. There's something else. Tell me what's going on. I mean, just like loving my financial advisor, I just so appreciated him at that moment.
I think that follows along the motivational interviewing principle of when we hit resistance within ourselves or notice it in somebody else, that we're moving too fast.
Yeah.
Like telling them to do it is not going to be helpful. There's something else much deeper going on.
I mean, and sometimes you can, depending on how forceful you are as a salesperson or a persuader or whatever, sometimes you can indeed get them to do stuff. You can get them to sign it. You can get them to do it. Doesn't help the relationship, and it doesn't mean that was the best thing for them to be doing. You're missing out on the schwack of information that could have told you, oh, they should not be signing this.
Exactly. Moira, for this episode, we're going to leave it there. But I think we'll continue our discussion next week. And how can people reach out to you? And you also, you have a website and a book?
I do. I have a book called Advice That Sticks. It was written for financial professionals. And my website is the longest freaking website domain in the world. It's moneymindandmeaning.com. At the time, that just sounded really cool. I wish I just said M3. 3M was already taken. I don't know. But that's how you can get a hold of me. My website is moneymindandmeaning.com.
Great. Moira, thank you so much. And I look forward to talking with you next week.
Right up.
Take care.